Welcome to Studio C70 at the Committee of 70. My name is Patrick Christmas, and May 21st is Election Day. Have a huge primary coming up. Judicial offices on the ballot, city offices on the ballot, mayor, city council. Big election for the city of Philadelphia. Elections are like job interviews. The candidates are like the job applicants. Voters are like the hiring committee. We do have one of the job applicants with us today, Vinny Black, running for city council.
Vinny Black got your back.
Vinny, welcome to the show. All right, so we only have 15 minutes. I want to jump straight into this. First big question is, why are you running?
Grew up in Philadelphia. Union iron worker, father of 7 kids. It has always destroyed me to see the decline of so many working class neighborhoods, to just see the destruction of families, to see the struggle of kids who are coming from neighborhoods, don't have the same opportunities that about Philadelphia.
And you know, given your background and work experience, what do you think will translate best into being a city council member over in that building up the street here?
So what I know about is family, and I know about work. And those are two of the fundamental things that many of us aspire to. And a politician is a communicator. That's what he is. He is trying to communicate a message. And the politicians, especially right now in our city and our country, is who can bring Philadelphians together with a sense of we're in this together and shared identity. So as a politician, it is very easy and very tempting to try to rally my side of the tracks in opposition to, let's say, the real estate developers, or the way Trump is doing it against immigrants. And the immigrant community can rally themselves against another part of the population. So what is important in Philadelphia and what is crucial is who can bring about a sense of shared identity, who can unite us, who can not just demonize, but who can bring a message that inspires the different groups of Philadelphia to like a shared vision of prosperity.
How would you take that on as a council member and a public figure?
So Philadelphia, for some people, it's working. I would say Philadelphia is probably working for you, and in truth, Philadelphia works for me. I have a job in a union. I have 7 kids. Even though I'm not, a millionaire, I can make almost 6 figures a year. So the problem is, for a lot of people, Philadelphia and the economy is utterly failing them. And politics, to me, is really a front for an economic system which has glorified the profit-making desire to an abnormal degree of virtue, right? What we don't want is, we're not trying to talk about socialism. We're not trying to talk about getting rid of our capitalist society. What we are trying to talk about is an inclusive economy where people can meaningfully participate in it and be able to enjoy these minimums of, owning a home, putting food on the table. Really just them things. Being able to own a home and put food on the table is out of the reach for probably 25% of the population of Philadelphia. So the wealth inequality, which the structural forces which are creating that, are only getting stronger, right? And when I say structural forces, I'm talking about, we got blasted by outsourcing in the city. And when I grew up in Philadelphia, I grew up on Spencer Street, working class neighborhood. We were not wealthy, and probably 85 to 90% of the parents did not go to college. But people were able to buy a home. They were able to put food on the table. They drove around in one car, and they probably were able to go down the shore for 1 week, And just that level of being a financial ability to participate in life, that was all we ever needed. Like, people weren't dying to get out of my neighborhood and go to Warrington and buy a $400,000 house. We had a sense of community. We had functional families. We had a lot of pride in where we lived. It was relatively safe. We had everything we ever wanted. So the poverty problem isn't like people want tremendous amounts of money. They just want to meaningfully participate in society, economically, in their families. It's within reach. It's not that crazy how far we have to go. It's owning a home and being able to feed your family. That's what people want.
Yeah, and I presume because you're running for office, you're running for city council, that you think some things could be done much better in that building up the street. What do you think would make City Hall work better? What would make our local democracy stronger? Our politics more open and accessible.
Okay, what will make our democracy stronger is what we have failed. Because let's say I'm conservative in some ways. I'm a father of 7. I'm also progressive because I realize that there's an economic foundation to the family. So most progressive, there was kind of this deal with the devil made in the late 60s with politics that says, okay, you can outsource and you can globalize, but you need to give us money to make sure that the population who's getting left behind, who doesn't have jobs, they're going to get these social programs that we can make up for the loss of their economic livelihood. So you have structural forces of automation hitting the working class. You have structural forces of outsourcing, and you have structural forces of unorganized labor. And when I say that is, the power of organized capital to pay as little wages as possible. So, but that deal with the devil of what progressives did, we have to kind of admit failure that in Philadelphia, we are not fixing the poverty problem. It was 25% in 2015, and even though we have a whole bunch of Democrats running the city, now it's 26% in 2019. And politicians will talk about fixing the problem, but here's what the problem is. When you, like in the business community, they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's your network, right? And for poor people, the most important network you have, firstly, is your family, and then it's your community. But if your family's dysfunctional, if your father has been incarcerated, if your community is dysfunctional and has been racked by unemployment and violence, social programs on the government level can't make up for the destruction of those first 2 networks. So as a progressive, as a person who wants to beat poverty, I feel like we have to start realizing how we have failed poor people, and we have to figure out not just how to redistribute income from the government level back to people, but to economically empower people so that they can buy a home, so that they can form families, that we can start pumping money into communities, that you have that larger network of, even if your father's not there, you have a couple guys on the block who are in unions at PGW, where you can get good employment opportunities. So we have to concentrate and admit failure, that you can't just fix things on the government level. So on the one level, I'm saying government has to admit failure, but at the same time, I'm not saying that government has to stop back and just let the market solve things, because the market's not going to solve things. What the market searches for is efficiencies and how to make money in this system. And when you go to work, or I go to work for my company, we're not trying to solve the world. We're just trying to do a good job for my company. And usually that means making more money for my company. So even though the government has to admit failure, it is going to be upon government officials. They're the only force strong enough that can counteract these structural forces of automation, of outsourcing, like the kind of benefits. The structural forces are benefiting wealth and power, and people on the bottom are probably not going to just be able to organize themselves like they do to form unions like they did back in the day. Because if you can't go on strike for more than 1 or 2 weeks, you're trapped. If you're getting kicked out of your house and you have no savings, you don't have the abilities to really organize on a big level. They need help from government. So government has to admit its failures with tackling the poverty situation, but they also have to realize that the government is extremely important on starting to strengthen these networks of families and communities, which are essential for, a sense of belonging, a sense of shared purpose, and, a sense of neighborhood.
Yeah. So as far as our government goes, our city government in particular, obviously, like the folks who are in those positions of power, like, matter immensely, right? Who those folks are and how they get there. given your experience on the campaign trail so far, and what you know about Philly elections, how well does that process work, or work not so well? I'm talking about like the money involved, working through the ward system, all of it. How you end up on the ballot.
When I got my when I put up my signatures when I was circulating my petition, I went on the subway, and by myself I got 2,000 signatures talking to people, and a lot of people I would talk to, they would almost have tears in their eyes, and they would say, I have so little faith in our elected officials. And these are Democrats, and they say they come around here at election time and they say all these good words and nothing changes around the neighborhood. I don't see them after the election. They go into the halls of power, right? They go down to City Hall. They start making $150,000 a year, all kinds of perks, all kinds of agency. You have this real important job. You're getting real paid well. And the problem is so many people become part of the power structure. They get disconnected from the struggle of people who are living in broken homes, single moms who are working for $8 an hour, are stressed out. Kids are going to dysfunctional, violent schools. Fathers aren't in the home, and they just get very disconnected from the struggle, So it is going to take politicians who kind of rededicate themselves to a real sincere desire to help those being left behind. It has to become more than talk, and it has to become action. And I really believe it has to become a movement on a bigger degree than just electing a guy to office. We need a vision that we can get behind, as a city.
Yeah. One of the things that comes up every spring that a lot of folks don't realize, because you're exactly right, that democracy is it's a group project, right? And not just people in power, not just certain civic leaders, political leaders, business leaders. It's everybody, all voters. One of the quirks about Pennsylvania actually is that not all voters can participate in spring primaries. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, should independent voters be able to cast ballots next month?
Yes, but the bigger problem than that is for people who can participate. What's the participation rate in this city? 17%, right?
Not nearly high enough. That's for sure.
So the democratic process has been so eviscerated, and I don't think these voters are apathetic because they're just lazy. I think deep in their hearts, they no longer believe that the democratic process functions the way it is supposed to do in the textbooks. They believe there is all kinds of money pouring into this election, and there are big-time donors who have the ears of these candidates to a way, way, way more powerful degree than the voters in the street. So in a lot of ways, our democracy is very, very sick, where people don't feel that it functions like it's supposed to. And only out of registered voters, this primary, a little bit under 2 out of 10 are going to vote. That's a sick democracy.
So, and we only have a couple more minutes here. So if you could wave like a magic wand and change one thing around how our democracy currently works, it could be anything. I mean, higher turnout, the way our elections work, anything. What would that one thing be?
I would definitely institute some sort of campaign finance regulations where everyone had the same amount of money, and I would promote debates on social media. I would equalize the candidate process where money didn't buy access to political office, because the reality is that it's the pressure of organized money that really gets you the access to office nowadays.
And we'll end it there. Vinny, thank you. The election's coming up again, May 21st. 70's nonpartisan voter guide is available at ballot.70.org. Also have a new app. It's called the We Vote app. Down wherever you grab at home. Has all the resources you could possibly need to get ready to vote. And Vinny Black will be one of the candidates on the ballot. Vinny, thanks for coming in.
Vinny Black got your back. Don't forget it, May 21st.
All righty. All right. See you on Election Day.